Diving in deep to the world of crypto. You're listening to Vorpin AI.
All right, so maybe you're thinking, okay, I'm interested in crypto, but like, how do I actually win it? And it's not just about like finding that magic coin, right?
It really is a different kind of game.
It's like a mental game almost.
Yeah, totally. It's about psychology.
The psychology of trading and how to like think like a winner, even if you're not, some kind of robot.
Exactly, yeah. And we're lucky enough to be diving into a book today that gets into all of that. The Psychology of Successful Trading.
By Tony James, who's the CEO of Vorpin AI. So he's got that, tech mind combined with this trading expertise.
Yeah, he's seen it all.
Which I think is super interesting. And one of the things that he talks about that really resonated with me is the importance of discipline, especially when, like you buy Bitcoin.
Right.
And then the next day it tanks.
Which, let's face it, that happens more often than not. It feels like it sometimes.
Totally.
Yeah.
So how do you not freak out and sell everything?
Well, that's exactly where discipline comes in, right? James talks about how most people, their gut reaction is to just get me out before I lose it all.
Right. Panic sell.
But a disciplined trader, they've got a plan and they stick to it.
So you're saying it's like going in with a strategy, knowing that there are going to be ups and downs.
Exactly. They've already factored in those dips. They're playing the long game.
Okay. So it's like having that pregame strategy, but for your crypto portfolio.
Right.
But how do you actually train your mind to do that, to stay calm when all signs point to chaos?
Well, James talks about these two kind of, I guess you could say, inner forces that are always at play. Fear and greed. He really brings them to life. It's like they're these characters that you're guaranteed to meet on your trading journey.
All right, so tell me more about these characters. Fear and greed.
Well, so fear, that's that voice in your head that's like, sell, 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 at the first sign of a dip, right?
Get me out.
Even if it means taking a loss and maybe missing out on bigger gains later on.
Ouch, yeah.
It can also show up as FOMO.
Oh, yeah, the fear of missing out.
That's right, the fear of missing out. And then you jump in late on a trade and potentially buy at the worst possible time.
Which we've all been there, right?
Right.
Okay, so that's fear. And then there's greed, which is, I'm guessing, whispering in the other ear.
Oh, yeah. Greed is sneaky. It's that voice that tells you to hold on just a little longer.
It's going to the moon. It's going to the moon.
Exactly. It's going to keep going up forever. But we know how that story usually ends.
Right, not well.
Not well.
So how do you actually manage those two voices? Yeah. It's like you've got this angel and this devil on your shoulder.
Yeah, and they're in a constant tug of war inside your head.
So how do we actually, wrangle those emotions?
Right.
Because they're powerful. Right.
They really are. So for fear, James talks about how you have to rely on data more than your gut.
Okay.
Do your research. Understand the why behind your trades. And then when you've got that solid foundation, those little ups and downs, they don't feel quite so dramatic.
So knowledge is power.
Right.
It really is in this case.
And he also talks about accepting that losses are just part of the game, which is hard.
It is hard.
But it's true. Yeah, it's part of the game. Even the most successful traders, they experience losses. It's about how you manage those losses and move forward without letting it, crush your confidence.
Right, because that can be really tough.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fear. What about greed? How do we tame that beast?
So James actually offers a couple of strategies for greed. And the first one is to set realistic profit targets.
Okay.
Decide how much profit would make you happy before you even enter a trade. And when you hit that number, take your winnings and walk away.
Don't get greedy.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that. What's the second strategy?
Shift your mindset from chasing these huge wins like overnight to focusing on consistency.
Okay.
Think of it this way. Would you rather get lucky once and maybe risk losing it all? Or would you rather build your wealth slowly and steadily over time?
Yeah, I think slow and steady wins the race, probably.
Usually does, especially in crypto. Focus on making smart, calculated trades consistently. Even if the gains seem small at first, they really do add up.
Consistency, I like it. But before we get too comfortable with slow and steady,
Right.
there's another thing that James talks about that I think is super interesting. And honestly, at first, it seems a little counterintuitive, especially in the crypto world, right? I mean, this is a fast-moving world.
Yeah, but we're so fast. What's this counterintuitive concept? Patience.
Patience. Okay, in the crypto world, I feel like that almost never happens. Everyone's looking for the next big thing,
Right, everyone wants to get rich quick. But James makes a really compelling case for why, especially in crypto, the patient trader often wins. It's about resisting those urges to jump on every meme coin that pops up or hit the panic button when things dip a little bit.
Okay, so patience, I get that. But in the real world of trading, what does that actually look like?
So for starters, it's about recognizing that not every opportunity is a good opportunity.
Okay.
James uses this analogy of a sniper.
Okay.
A patient trader is like a sniper. They're not just taking shots at anything that moves, right? They're waiting for that high probability setup, the one that aligns with their strategy.
So instead of chasing every pump and dump, you're waiting for that, prime trading setup.
Exactly. That's going to maximize their potential for long-term success, playing the long game, not chasing these quick thrills.
Okay, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. I know I've definitely been, guilty of getting caught up in the hype and just buying into things that probably shouldn't have. And those don't always end well.
They rarely do. And that's why James also talks about the importance of avoiding overtrading,
Okay.
which can be tough.
Very tough.
Because there's so much happening all the time.
All the time.
But overtrading can really lead to unnecessary losses.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes the best trade is no trade.
Really?
Yeah. Patience allows you to, step back, take a breath, analyze the market objectively.
Okay, so I can see that.
Yeah.
But how do you actually, do that when you know you should be patient, but your brain is like, no, buy the dip.
Yeah.
It's like you're fighting against your own, wiring.
Right. And that's where James brings in a really, I think, fascinating concept, which is using AI as a tool to combat those impulses.
Okay, so like a robot trading buddy to step in when our emotions are about to make us do something really dumb.
It's not quite as simple as that, but he does argue that AI can be incredibly useful in helping us make more objective decisions, especially in the heat of the moment. AI doesn't experience emotions the way we do.
Right, it doesn't have that fear and greed thing going on.
Exactly. AI doesn't get caught up in the hype. It doesn't panic when the market dips. It doesn't get greedy when things are going really well. And because it can process information so much faster than we can, it can actually help us to see opportunities and risks that we might miss on our own.
Okay, so walk me through this a little bit. How does that actually work in the real world?
Well, first of all, AI is a data crunching machine. It can analyze these massive amounts of data, looking for patterns, looking for trends that our human brains might not even notice.
It's like having, a crystal ball, but instead of magic, it's algorithms.
That's a good way to put it. And because it can analyze all this data so quickly and efficiently, it can react to changes in the market much faster than any human trader could.
So you're saying, if things suddenly change, your AI can, adjust your strategy in real time.
Exactly. James actually gives this example of, let's say you have a stop-loss order set up to limit your potential losses on a trade, but then the market suddenly becomes super volatile, and your original stop-loss isn't low enough to protect you. An AI-powered system could actually recognize that change in the market and adjust your stop-loss automatically, potentially saving you from a much bigger loss.
Okay, so it's like a super fast bodyguard for your portfolio.
That's a good way to put it. And it's not just about protecting you on the downside, but also capitalizing on those opportunities that you might miss otherwise. Because it's constantly analyzing that data, it might see a buying opportunity that you would have totally overlooked.
So AI can help us manage risk, and it can help us potentially make more money. I like the sound of that. But I do want to, bring it back to the human element a little bit. Because ultimately, we're the ones setting the strategy, right?
We are. That's a really important point that James makes. AI is a tool, and like any tool, it's only as good as the person using it. It's not about replacing us. It's about augmenting our abilities and making us smarter traders.
So it's a partnership. Human intuition combined with, the speed and efficiency of AI.
Exactly. It's about finding that synergy.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. We've talked about discipline, emotional control, this whole idea of using AI. But before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with something to really think about. We've been talking about, all these different things we can do, like tools and techniques to kind of up our mental game when it comes to trading.
Yeah.
But if you had to pick just one thing, what's the one thing that our listeners should really focus on?
If I had to pick just one, I think it would be self-awareness.
Self-awareness, okay. Sounds pretty straightforward, but I'm guessing there's more to it than meets the eye.
Yeah, it's really about understanding your own personal triggers, what gets you excited, what makes you panic. It's about recognizing those biases, those little things that might be influencing your decisions, maybe without you even realizing it.
So it's like, how do we actually hold up that mirror to ourselves and be like, all right, this is what's really going on in my head?
Well, James talks about journaling, just taking a few minutes at the end of your trading day and kind of reflecting. What went well? What could you have done differently?
Kind of look back and see, okay, where did I mess up?
Yeah. And did you make a decision based on emotion instead of logic?
Oh, interesting.
And what you'll find is the more you do that, the more you start to see these patterns.
Okay.
You realize, oh, every time this happens in the market, I tend to freak out, or every time I read this kind of news headline, I get overly impulsive.
So it's like you start to see, okay, this is my weakness.
Right, you see your blind spots.
Okay, so once you know what your weaknesses are, then what? How do you actually change your behavior?
Have a plan. So let's say you realize that you always get FOMO when you read news headlines about a certain coin. Knowing that about yourself, maybe you decide, okay, when I see that news, I'm going to take a step back. I'm not going to make any decisions until things calm down a bit.
So you're basically pre-committing to a certain course of action to prevent yourself from doing something rash.
Exactly. And the important thing to remember is that this whole process of, building the right mindset, cultivating that self-awareness, it's a journey. It's not something that happens overnight.
Yeah.
It takes time and effort.
Like most things in life worth doing, right? It takes a little effort.
Exactly. And you have to be honest with yourself about your strengths, but also those weaknesses.
It's like training for a marathon, but instead of training our body, we're training our minds.
I like that analogy. And just like in a marathon, the key is to focus on consistent progress.
Yeah, not just how do I sprint to the finish line.
Right. Celebrate the small wins. Don't beat yourself up over those setbacks. Just keep learning, keep growing, and keep that long-term vision in mind.
I love it. Well, this has been an amazing deep dive. So to recap, it's not just about which coins you buy, it's about how you think, how you manage those emotions. So a huge thank you to Tony James for sharing all of his insights in The Psychology of Successful Trading.
Yeah, great book.
Really changed my perspective. And to our listeners, remember, your biggest asset is the one between your ears.
That's right. Use it wisely.
So keep learning, keep growing, and as always, happy trading.